great people. I'm back and I've been thinking about how we've been taught as kids. We come from a generation, or how we've been exposed to whippings. Our parents, we come from parents, at least a lot of us come from parents who were taught to beat your children. That was the way of punishing them. That was the way of showing love. Well, I want to challenge that and tell you, stop doing that. If you got kids, stop whipping your children, baby. Learn how to talk to them. Learn how to hear them out. Maybe your kids will be a lot more honest with you if you stop punishing them, if you stop chastising them. But stop trying to put that fear in them, because when you do that, that's probably why. Kids are going to be curious. They're going to want to try things. That's how the mind works. That's how they are. They're children. And even not just that, what I'm saying? That's kind of how the mind is anyways. Even as you get older, you're curious of things you haven't tried. You don't tell your children to not do things, and yet you're doing them. At the same time, you sitting up telling them not to do something. You sitting up doing it. You're doing it right in front of their face. You don't do that, man. Kids don't listen to what you say. They listen to what you do. At least that's what they know. They hear what you say, but they listen to what you do, just like people. If you're doing it, it automatically gives them a right to do it too. So if you really want to train your child correctly, then you need to be what you want them to be. Be the change you want them, just like anybody else. When I want a certain change, when I want things to happen around me, whatever I want to attract, or whatever kind of environment I want, if I have the power to change things around me, I need to be that change. It doesn't make sense to tell me what to do and you're not applying it yourself. But please stop whipping your children, right? Because really what you're actually doing, you're whipping them in memory of the slave owner. Mama used to beat, her son. She used to beat her children because she didn't want the white man to kill them. I learned that from Dick Gregory. But that time is over, baby, because that really is a form of abuse. Hollering at your children, threatening them, beating them, that's a form of abuse. Listen, hear them out. Listen to them. Talk with them. Maybe you won't have to beat them. Listen to your children. They're not for you to be. A parent's job is not to control the child. A lot of times we doing stuff like that. Of course, I already know. Everybody got a story, baby. We know. That's what's been passed down to me. But that's what I'm saying. At some point, you got to learn how to challenge that stuff, man. Learn how to challenge it instead of passing it down, instead of continuing it. It has to stop somewhere, man. How you gonna make a difference if all you want to do is pass down the same thing that has been passed down to you? How you gonna make a difference if you're not gonna challenge the things you've been exposed to, the things you've been taught? We want to do things that has never been done before, but we're afraid to be different. Stop whipping the children. I came from a generation, man. My parents used to tell me, whenever it's the child against the adult, that the adult was always the right one, no matter what. That's the worst thing, man. That's the worst thing. The way these children are getting beaten, the way these children are, the kind of abuse these children face when they're away from home. And you better not talk about it because something gonna happen. You too young to have problems. You too young to have nerves. You too young to be this and that. You too young to. How you too young? It's not their fault that they experience rape, that they experience molestation, abuse. That's not their fault. They ain't too young. You too stupid to listen. Because somebody told you, if you ever open your mouth, you know what I'm saying, somebody threatened you about that. Maybe that happened to you, and somebody threatened you about opening your mouth because they said, you do, I got something for you. And that's why this stuff gets passed down, because we not really talking about it like that. We scared to talk about it. But you might as well talk about it, because, I mean, the secret is going to get exposed at some point. What's better, to hold it in or to pass it down? Either way, it's still living on. So many secrets within families have lived on for far too long. They need to ultimately die. And that's why there's a generation here that's willing to challenge that and willing to break that kind of curse, baby. We up in this mug, and ain't nothing nobody can do about that. Stop beating them children. It is a form of abuse. Stop yelling at them. Hear them out. Yeah, they may be the child, but baby, sometimes your child can be smarter than you. If you listen to the children, they're a lot of times they're the teacher. And sometimes we know that, but hey, it's like we're not ready to find out that we don't know as much as we think we do. But how can you ever know anything, baby, other than how can you ever know more? And you only want to close yourself to what you've been taught. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Stop whooping them children. Stop yelling at them. I used to get yelled at all the time. You know what I'm saying? I forgive my dad, rest in power, and my mom. They were doing what they knew. But sometimes we do what we want. It's not so much we do. It's not so much it's all we know. It's all we want to know. Because you'll find out when these people are talking to you, whenever it's your turn, whenever it's flipped around, they'll hold you accountable. They seem to know enough to hold you accountable. They seem to know how to, they have ways of holding you accountable. They can tell you when it's flipped, you know what I'm saying? You want to act like that's all you know, but then you know how to hold me accountable. Nah. You telling on yourself. If you can hold somebody else accountable, you can hold yourself accountable. A lot of times we know what we want to know. It's not so much that's all we know, that's all we want to know. How can you really know? How can you really not know what you're doing? But then you can hold somebody else accountable whenever they do it. Come on, somebody. So I got to challenge you about that, baby. Stop whipping them children, man. Then you got the nerve to get upset when we see our sons beating women. Men beating women. But that's what you teaching them at home. Especially when, not only just because you beating the wife, but then you beating them. You passing that's still passing it down. That's still passing down abuse. So whenever that's triggered, maybe that's his way of expressing it, by beating a woman. You want to talk about, what I'm saying? Men should hit women, but then you beating your child. What about the women that's beating their children? What's more tender than a child, baby? What's more tender than a child? When I was a baby, I was doggone near killed. One thing I do remember, man, it was a whole bucket of water being poured on me. Every day I used to go to that daycare, man. It was a woman that used to beat male boys. It's like she had something against male boys. She used to beat them. I was one of them. She used to beat them. She used to beat us. I came home one time with a mark on my butt and she lied about it. And eventually, you know what I'm saying, my parents found out that mark was, that bruise was put on my butt. Something she did. Of course, she went to jail. But I also had to realize, you know what? Somebody probably did that. She probably had experience with a man beating her. Something in her childhood. That was trauma from her childhood that she took out on people, that she took out on me too. But then what I learned is, you know what? It's not so much what happened to me. I don't need to keep taking it personally, because guess what? Life doesn't happen to you, it happens to involve you. Why should I assume that things are happening to me when everybody else around me is saying me too? Don't take it personally. Stop whipping them kids, man. I'm telling you. If you listen to them too, that's probably what they need anyways. They just want somebody, they want your attention. They want you to listen. You don't need to be beating kids you ain't got time for anyways. You're behind barely home. You got the nerve to beat them because you found out they was doing so. Maybe that's why. Because you ain't putting no time with them, baby. They can't get your attention. So just like some of the psychologists would tell you, they'll do stuff purposely to get your attention. They'll act up on purpose if that's what it takes for you to come on, for you to touch them. Sadly, unfortunately, it's an abusive touch because you want to beat them. You jokers go so far to get switches and I can't even say it. Extension cords, TVs and shoes, beating up with heels and stuff like that. Calm your butt down with that. Calm down with that. You got the nerve to talk about you shouldn't beat a woman. I don't condone